Maya Thompson woke up before sunrise, her heart heavy but determined. Today was not an ordinary day. Today she would face a trial in federal court that had the whole city watching. Maya had always been proud of her work as a community lawyer. She helped people solve problems that seemed impossible. But now, for reasons she could not fully understand, she was on the other side of the courtroom. She was being humiliated by Judge Harold Brenton, a man whose reputation for fairness was well known. Or so everyone believed. She got dressed in a simple navy suit, making sure everything was neat. Her reflection in the mirror showed a young woman who had faced challenges before and survived. But this challenge was different. It was public, it was personal, and it could change her life forever. She grabbed her briefcase filled with documents and notes she had spent weeks preparing. As she left her small apartment, the city streets were quiet, the early sunlight reflecting on the tall buildings. When Maya arrived at the courthouse, the hallways were already crowded. Lawyers, journalists, and curious citizens moved through the corridors, some with confident steps, others with anxious glances. The air smelled of polished wood and old paper. Maya's palms were sweaty as she walked toward the courtroom. Her mind replayed the arguments she would present, the evidence she had gathered, and the questions she would ask. She knew the judge had power over her that day, but she also knew she had something more important: the truth. The courtroom was grand, with high ceilings and large windows letting in the morning light. Maya took a seat at the table reserved for her. Across the room, Judge Brenton sat in his elevated chair, papers neatly stacked before him. His expression was stern, his eyes scanning the room as if he already knew the outcome. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories of his strictness, but she had not expected this level of intensity. The trial began with opening statements. Judge Brenton spoke sharply, his voice echoing in the courtroom. He interrupted Maya as she tried to present her evidence, dismissing her points as irrelevant. Every time she tried to speak, he waved his hand or shook his head. Maya felt the eyes of the gallery on her. Some people were shocked, some whispered to each other, and a few nodded in silent agreement with the judge. She forced herself to stay calm, taking deep breaths to steady her voice. Maya realized that the trial was not only about the case, but about something deeper. Judge Brenton was not simply judging the facts. He seemed determined to make her feel small, to humiliate her in front of everyone. Maya's mind raced. Why would a respected judge behave this way? She had never faced such hostility before. She tried to focus on her notes, carefully presenting each document and explaining her side of the story. She cited laws and previous cases, hoping the logic of her argument would be enough. Despite her efforts, Judge Brenton remained cold and dismissive. He questioned her integrity in front of the entire courtroom, suggesting that her evidence was fabricated. Maya's cheeks burned with embarrassment, but she did not let herself falter. She reminded herself of her purpose. She was not there to seek approval. She was there to speak the truth. The trial lasted for hours. Witnesses were called, and each time Maya presented new information, Judge Brenton's reactions became more severe. At one point, he banged his gavel, silencing the courtroom. The sound echoed in Maya's ears, making her heart race. She clenched her fists, forcing herself to remain composed. She could feel the weight of the public watching her, the reporters taking notes, and the community depending on her courage. During a brief recess, Maya stepped outside into the courtyard. The sunlight warmed her face, and the sound of birds reminded her that life continued outside the courtroom. She pulled out her notebook and reviewed her strategy. She knew that winning this trial might not be possible in the traditional sense. The judge's behavior was unpredictable, and the courtroom seemed stacked against her. But Maya had another strength, her mind and her determination to uncover the truth. As she returned to the courtroom, Maya noticed a few familiar faces in the gallery. They were colleagues, friends, and community members who had supported her through her career. Their presence gave her courage. She reminded herself that she was not alone, that she had a responsibility not only to herself, but to everyone who believed in fairness and justice. The afternoon session began, and Maya resumed her arguments. She carefully laid out her evidence, connecting facts and figures, explaining discrepancies, and asking questions that pointed to inconsistencies in the opposing side's claims. Judge Brenton listened, but his expression remained hard. Maya could sense his dismissiveness, but she refused to let it shake her. She knew the truth was on her side, even if it was not enough to sway the judge at that moment. As the day progressed, Maya started noticing small details that seemed unusual. Some documents had been handled strangely. Certain witnesses seemed nervous and hesitant. Judge Brenton's questions were not only sharp, but sometimes avoided the core issues of the case. A feeling of suspicion grew inside Maya. She realized that this trial might not be about her at all. There might be something bigger, something hidden, influencing the events in the courtroom. When the final session of the day ended, Maya gathered her things and stepped out into the cool evening air. The courthouse steps were crowded with people leaving after a long day. Reporters asked questions, but she smiled politely and said little. Inside, her mind was busy forming a plan. She knew she could not ignore the strange circumstances surrounding the trial. She needed to find out the truth, even if it meant going beyond the courtroom and looking into the people who held power over her. That night, Maya sat at her small kitchen table, her laptop open and her notes spread out. She began researching everything she could about Judge Brenton, reviewing his past cases, public statements, and professional history. She carefully documented everything, noting inconsistencies and suspicious patterns. The more she looked, the more she realized that there might be hidden corruption influencing the courtroom. Maya's determination grew stronger with every passing hour. She knew that pursuing this path would be difficult, possibly dangerous, but she could not ignore what she had discovered. She reminded herself that her mission was not personal revenge, but seeking justice and truth. She believed that if wrongdoing existed, it should be exposed, and no one, not even a powerful judge, should be above the law. By the time the city lights glowed through her window, Maya had a clear plan forming. She would continue to gather evidence, speak with trustworthy contacts, and prepare herself for the next day in court. But more importantly, she was determined to uncover what lay beneath the surface of this trial. Judge Brenton's behavior had ignited something in her, a drive to reveal hidden truths and ensure that justice was served. Maya closed her laptop for the night, exhausted but resolute. She knew the days ahead would be challenging, but she also knew that courage, intelligence, and persistence were on her side. She would face the trial tomorrow with the same determination, ready to stand firm against unfairness, ready to fight for truth, and ready to take the first steps toward uncovering what really was happening in the courtroom. The next morning, Maya woke with a mixture of anxiety and determination. Her mind was still full of questions from the previous day. Judge Brenton's unusual behavior had left her uneasy. She knew that the trial was only the surface. Something deeper was hidden, and she was determined to find it. After a quick breakfast, Maya returned to the courthouse early. She had decided that today, she would watch carefully and observe not only the proceedings but also the people around her. She arrived before the doors opened and noticed a few familiar faces. Some lawyers exchanged quiet whispers, and a security guard gave her a brief nod. Maya realized that small details often revealed more than words. As she entered the courtroom, she felt the familiar weight of authority pressing down on her. Judge Brenton was already seated, his expression sharp and unreadable. He glanced at Maya and gave a faint nod. She knew that underneath his professional demeanor, there might be secrets he was protecting. Maya took her seat and opened her notebook, preparing to take careful notes during the session. The trial began, but today felt different. Judge Brenton's questions seemed calculated, almost like he was testing more than the facts. He interrupted witnesses in unusual ways, asking questions that did not relate to the case. Maya noticed a few subtle signs: documents being handled quietly by the court staff, a messenger entering and leaving without explanation, and a witness who seemed unusually nervous. Her intuition told her that she was seeing the edges of a hidden story. During a short recess, Maya quietly approached the courthouse library. She needed more than observation. She needed proof. She opened the public records and began reviewing past cases Judge Brenton had handled. Most of them appeared ordinary at first glance, but Maya was meticulous. She checked dates, witnesses, and rulings. Then she noticed a pattern. Several cases seemed rushed, with decisions that favored certain individuals. Those individuals were connected to companies and organizations that were rarely questioned. Maya's heart quickened. There was something unusual in how the judge handled cases. She made careful notes and photographs of the documents. Maya knew she had to be cautious. If she acted too openly, she might face consequences before she could uncover the truth. She slipped her notes into her briefcase and returned to the courtroom just as the session resumed. Judge Brenton's demeanor remained stern, but Maya had gained confidence. She was no longer only a participant in the trial. She was an observer of patterns, of actions, and of hidden signals. She began to notice subtle interactions. A law clerk passing papers quietly, a security guard glancing repeatedly at one corner of the room, and a few individuals nodding when the judge spoke in hushed tones. Something was happening behind the surface, and Maya was determined to understand it. During the afternoon, a witness named Clara Martin was called. Clara was a business consultant who had worked with companies involved in several cases Judge Brenton had handled. Her testimony was nervous and hesitant. Maya watched carefully. The judge asked questions that seemed unrelated, but Clara's answers hinted at pressure and hidden arrangements. Maya's mind raced. This was the thread she needed to pull. She began to plan how to connect the dots without drawing immediate attention to herself. After the session ended, Maya stayed behind. She quietly approached Clara, who was gathering her belongings. "Clara," Maya said softly, "I noticed some things during your testimony. Have you ever felt pressured to change your reports or statements in court?" Clara hesitated, looking around nervously. Maya offered a reassuring smile. "I am not here to get anyone in trouble unfairly. I just want to know the truth." Clara's eyes flickered with hesitation, then she spoke in a low voice. "There have been cases where the judge favored certain people. It was subtle, but it felt deliberate. I was afraid to speak up, but I noticed patterns." Maya listened carefully, asking a few more questions without pushing too hard. She knew she was gaining trust, and trust was necessary for uncovering hidden facts. That evening, Maya returned home with her mind full of thoughts. She opened her laptop and began organizing the information she had gathered. She created a timeline of the judge's past cases, highlighting connections between decisions and individuals. The patterns were clear. There were repeated advantages for certain groups and unusual dismissals of evidence that should have mattered. Maya realized that this was more than an isolated incident. It could be a systemic problem. She decided that the next step required caution. She could not act alone in the courtroom anymore. She needed guidance from those trained to handle investigations. Maya knew that exposing a powerful judge required solid evidence and a careful approach. After researching, she discovered that the Federal Bureau of Investigation handled cases involving corruption in the judicial system. She began drafting a detailed report, carefully noting the inconsistencies, unusual behavior, and connections she had observed. For several nights, Maya worked tirelessly. She interviewed Clara again, gathering more details. She reached out discreetly to a few other witnesses who had experienced unusual court outcomes. Each person added pieces to the puzzle, confirming Maya's suspicions. She documented everything with precision. Every note, photograph, and document was organized and verified. Maya knew that the strength of her case depended on facts and clarity. One evening, while reviewing the materials, Maya discovered an email that caught her attention. It was from a law firm connected to several past cases, mentioning meetings and instructions that implied pressure on the judge's decisions. Maya's pulse quickened. This was tangible evidence of influence and possible misconduct. She made copies and stored them securely. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, and Maya felt a sense of determination stronger than ever. Maya realized that exposing these actions required more than courage. It required patience and strategy. She could not act impulsively. She needed to present the information to authorities who could investigate without bias. She made a careful plan for contacting the FBI. She would provide the evidence she had gathered, along with a clear timeline and documentation, ensuring that the case could be reviewed professionally. The next day in court, Maya noticed that Judge Brenton's behavior was slightly different. He seemed aware of her scrutiny, and his interruptions were more calculated. Maya stayed calm and continued her careful observation. She knew that her next steps outside the courtroom were critical. Inside, she maintained professionalism, presenting her arguments clearly and respectfully. That night, Maya finally contacted a trusted FBI agent she had met through professional networks. She sent an encrypted email with a summary of her findings and asked for guidance on how to proceed. Within hours, she received a response, instructing her to prepare a detailed report with all supporting evidence. Maya felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. She knew that involving the FBI would escalate the situation, but it was necessary to ensure justice. Over the next few days, Maya worked tirelessly, compiling her evidence, organizing interviews, and documenting her findings in a professional and clear manner. She reviewed each document carefully, making sure that nothing could be dismissed. Every detail mattered. Her diligence reflected her commitment to truth and fairness. As she submitted her report to the FBI, Maya felt a sense of responsibility and courage. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she also knew that exposing hidden corruption was the right path. She had started as a lawyer fighting a personal battle in court, but now she had become an investigator seeking justice for the entire community. For the first time in weeks, Maya allowed herself to rest. She felt a sense of purpose stronger than any fear. She had uncovered a hidden trail of evidence, gained the trust of witnesses, and prepared a clear path for authorities to investigate. The trial had been only the beginning. The real work, the work of uncovering truth and seeking justice, was just beginning. Maya closed her laptop, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the power of determination. She had turned humiliation into motivation, observation into investigation, and courage into action. She was no longer just facing a trial. She was standing against hidden corruption. Maya Thompson woke early with a sense of cautious hope. After submitting her detailed report to the FBI, she felt a weight lifted, but she also knew the road ahead would be challenging. The agency had promised a thorough investigation, and she was determined to cooperate fully. Today was the first day she would meet the agent assigned to her case. The FBI office was located in a tall, unassuming building downtown. Maya's heart raced as she approached the entrance. She had never been inside a federal office before, and the security checks reminded her of the seriousness of the situation. After presenting her identification and passing through the metal detector, she was guided to a conference room where Agent Rivera was waiting. He was professional but kind, and his calm demeanor helped Maya relax. "Ms. Thompson, thank you for coming," Agent Rivera said, extending his hand. "We have reviewed your report, and the information you provided is very detailed. We will begin our investigation immediately, but we need your full cooperation as we proceed." Maya nodded. She felt a mixture of nervousness and relief. Finally, someone with authority was taking her concerns seriously. They began by reviewing her evidence together. Agent Rivera asked questions about the timeline, the witnesses, and the documents she had collected. Maya answered each question carefully, pointing out details she had noticed during the trial. As they went through the materials, Rivera noted inconsistencies in Judge Brenton's past cases and patterns that aligned with Maya's observations. Maya realized that her careful work had provided a strong foundation for the investigation. After the meeting, Maya returned home, but her mind did not rest. She knew the investigation would take time, and she wanted to continue her own observations. She began reviewing public records and news articles, looking for additional evidence that might support her case. She discovered a few old complaints and letters that raised questions about the judge's impartiality. Maya carefully documented everything, knowing that even small details could be significant. Over the next several days, the FBI began reaching out to witnesses independently. Maya stayed in contact, providing additional details when necessary but leaving the direct investigation to the professionals. She felt a sense of cautious satisfaction as she observed the process unfold. Her role was critical, but the weight of responsibility now rested with trained investigators. Meanwhile, the trial continued. Judge Brenton's demeanor seemed increasingly tense. Maya noticed that he glanced more frequently at the gallery and court staff, as if aware that someone was watching closely. Maya maintained her composure, presenting her points carefully while keeping her attention on small signals that might indicate hidden activity. She observed subtle interactions, quiet whispers, and exchanged glances that suggested the courtroom was no longer entirely controlled by the judge alone. One day, a new witness named Thomas Green was called. He was a former clerk who had worked in Judge Brenton's chambers for several years. Maya listened carefully as Thomas described unusual instructions he had received and patterns he had noticed in the judge's rulings. He mentioned documents being redirected, emails deleted, and certain cases receiving special attention without clear justification. Maya's notebook quickly filled with new observations. This testimony confirmed that her suspicions were not unfounded. After court, Maya met Thomas privately. "Thank you for speaking up," she said. What you are telling me could make a big difference if handled correctly. Thomas looked uneasy. I've been afraid for a long time. The judge has influence and I worried about my career. But I saw things that didn't feel right. I want justice too, Maya reassured him. We are working with the FBI. Your information is safe and it can help bring the truth to light. That evening, Maya reviewed her notes and organized all new evidence. The connections were becoming clearer. Judge Brenton had made decisions that favored certain individuals and businesses repeatedly. There were emails, witness testimonies, and subtle courtroom actions that suggested undue influence. Maya felt a mix of frustration and determination. The system that was supposed to uphold fairness had been manipulated, but she had found the path to exposing it. Meanwhile, the FBI began following leads based on Maya's initial report. Agents reviewed financial records, emails, and prior court cases. They conducted interviews discreetly, ensuring witnesses felt safe to speak. Maya stayed informed, but she also recognized the importance of letting the investigation proceed without interference. She balanced her role as a witness and supporter with the need to maintain caution. During one afternoon session of the trial, Maya noticed a clerk quickly moving files across the courtroom, and the judge seemed unusually focused on those papers. She made a note in her notebook. This detail might seem minor to others, but Maya had learned that small actions often revealed hidden truths. She felt a sense of clarity. The investigation was beginning to affect behavior inside the courtroom, and the judge was aware that someone was watching. Back at home, Maya organized a secure folder for all digital and physical evidence. She labeled everything carefully: witness statements, documents, emails, and notes from courtroom observations. She realized that clarity and order would be essential if the FBI needed to use her materials in court. Her meticulous approach reflected her understanding that evidence must be credible, organized, and thorough. One evening, Maya received a message from Agent Rivera. The FBI had uncovered additional evidence that corroborated her observations. They had discovered unusual financial transfers connected to some of the judge's past cases. This confirmation strengthened the case considerably. Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. Her initial work had triggered an investigation that was now revealing deeper issues of misconduct. As the investigation progressed, Maya also focused on her personal well-being. She knew that the stress could be overwhelming, and she took moments to rest, exercise, and reflect. These moments helped her maintain clarity and resilience. She knew the road ahead could be long and difficult, but she was prepared to see it through. Weeks passed, and the tension in the courtroom increased. Judge Brenton seemed aware that scrutiny extended beyond the walls of the courthouse. Maya continued to present her arguments carefully, using logic, evidence, and clear communication. She remained professional, never letting frustration or fear interfere with her performance. Her strength and composure drew respect from witnesses and observers. Outside the courtroom, the FBI deepened their investigation. They contacted other courts, legal firms, and individuals connected to Judge Brenton's previous cases. Maya provided guidance and context when needed, but she remained cautious, aware that the process required patience. She knew that rushing could jeopardize the investigation. One night, after another long day of work, Maya sat at her kitchen table, reviewing a stack of witness statements. She noticed a detail she had previously overlooked: a pattern in the judge's scheduling of cases that favored certain groups. She highlighted the connections and added notes explaining their significance. Every detail mattered. Every observation strengthened the evidence of wrongdoing. Maya realized that the combination of her observations and the FBI's investigation was creating a clear picture of misconduct. She felt a sense of satisfaction and determination. The initial humiliation in court had become the catalyst for uncovering hidden truths. Her courage, patience, and diligence were turning the tide toward justice. By the end of Part 3, Maya had transformed from a lawyer facing humiliation into a key figure in a federal investigation. She had gained the trust of witnesses, provided detailed evidence, and worked closely with the FBI. The courtroom remained a stage of tension, but behind the scenes, the wheels of justice were turning. Maya knew the most challenging and revealing moments were yet to come. Maya Thompson arrived at the courthouse early as usual, but today her mind was focused on more than the trial. The FBI had called her the previous night to share preliminary findings. They had discovered documents and transactions that strongly suggested Judge Brenton had been involved in improper activity for years. Maya felt a mixture of shock and determination. The man who had humiliated her in court was now the subject of a serious investigation. She walked through the marble halls, taking note of every detail. Today, she would continue presenting her case, but she also planned to observe everything closely. She knew that every interaction, every document, and every movement could reveal something important. Maya carried her briefcase filled with notes and evidence, her confidence strengthened by the knowledge that the FBI was supporting her. The trial began, and Judge Brenton appeared calm, but Maya could sense a subtle tension in his demeanor. His eyes scanned the courtroom more frequently than usual. Maya noticed small gestures, a hand brushing papers too carefully, a clerk hesitating before passing a document, and a witness avoiding eye contact. These tiny details confirmed what she had suspected. The judge knew that the scrutiny on him was growing. During the proceedings, Maya presented evidence carefully and confidently. She referred to previous cases, timelines, and witness statements, demonstrating patterns of behavior that were questionable. The courtroom audience listened intently, and some observers whispered quietly among themselves. Maya felt a growing sense of responsibility. She was not only presenting facts for her trial, but also helping reveal potential misconduct. Later, during a recess, Maya met with Clara Martin and Thomas Green in a quiet corner outside the courtroom. "We need to be very precise now," Maya said. "Every detail you provide could help the FBI understand the full situation." Clara nodded nervously. "I will share what I know, but I'm still worried about being identified," she said. Maya reassured her, explaining how the FBI could protect witnesses and handle information discreetly. Thomas added additional details about how files had been altered or redirected in the past. Maya recorded everything carefully, understanding that these small observations were part of a much larger picture. Back in the courtroom, Maya noticed a pattern forming. Judge Brenton seemed to avoid questions that directly concerned certain business connections, and he appeared unusually concerned about how witnesses were behaving. Maya made careful notes, recognizing that even the judge's reactions were part of the evidence. She had learned to observe beyond words, to see actions and gestures that revealed more than statements alone. After the trial ended for the day, Maya returned home and organized her evidence. She labeled documents, emails, and witness statements with dates and notes. She cross-referenced every detail with the FBI's findings. Her work was meticulous, but she knew it had to be perfect. One error could weaken the case, and Maya was determined to ensure that nothing could undermine the investigation. The next morning, Maya received a call from Agent Rivera. "We have uncovered additional documents that indicate financial activity tied to certain companies and individuals connected to Judge Brenton," he explained. "This strengthens the case for misconduct, and we may have enough to move forward with further investigation." Maya felt a sense of relief. Her careful observations, combined with the FBI's findings, were creating a clear and undeniable picture of wrongdoing. With renewed determination, Maya returned to court. She noticed subtle changes. Witnesses seemed more confident, and some individuals in the gallery appeared concerned. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Maya continued presenting her evidence clearly and professionally, using every opportunity to highlight patterns of unusual decisions and connections. Her focus and calm presence drew respect from some observers, even as Judge Brenton remained stern and defensive. During a lunch break, Maya met with Clara and Thomas again. "We may be close to revealing the full extent of what has been happening," Maya said. "We need to continue documenting every detail." Clara shared a story about how a minor case had been handled unusually, favoring a particular company, while Thomas explained how documents had been hidden from other lawyers in the past. Each story added more clarity to the investigation. Maya felt a growing sense of purpose. She realized that what had started as personal humiliation had transformed into a mission for justice. That evening, Maya reviewed an email chain she had discovered, showing instructions that had influenced several of Judge Brenton's decisions. The tone was professional but clearly suggested pressure and expectation. Maya highlighted the key points, understanding their significance. These were the kind of facts that could not be dismissed. Her careful documentation made it clear that misconduct had been deliberate and organized. The next day in court, Maya observed a significant moment. Judge Brenton seemed unsettled when a witness mentioned certain financial details connected to past rulings. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for papers, and he avoided direct eye contact with the witness. Maya noted everything in her notebook. She realized that the judge's actions were becoming more revealing under scrutiny. The presence of the FBI investigation, combined with her observations, was creating pressure. After court, Maya met Agent Rivera again. "Your documentation has been incredibly helpful," he said. "We now have enough evidence to begin formal interviews and potentially take further action. This could lead to significant consequences if misconduct is confirmed." Maya felt a mixture of relief and determination. She had taken a personal challenge and turned it into something far greater, a pursuit of truth and accountability. Over the next few days, the FBI conducted interviews and collected additional documents. Maya provided guidance and context, ensuring that investigators understood the significance of each piece of evidence. She realized that her initial humiliation had led her to uncover hidden truths that might have remained undiscovered otherwise. Her courage and persistence were now helping to bring justice closer. Meanwhile, the courtroom environment continued to shift. Judge Brenton appeared more cautious, less confident. Maya observed subtle changes. Clerks hesitated before handling documents, witnesses spoke with more care, and some attorneys appeared unusually focused on small details. Maya recognized that her observations, combined with the FBI's investigation, were influencing behavior in the courtroom. The hidden corruption was becoming harder to hide. One evening, Maya met Clara and Thomas for a final discussion before the next stage of the investigation. "We have done our part by sharing what we know," Maya said. "Now the FBI will follow up on the evidence and the truth will come to light." Clara nodded, feeling reassured by Maya's careful and professional handling of the situation. Thomas expressed relief that the investigation was moving forward, and Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. That night, Maya sat at her kitchen table, reflecting on how far she had come. The initial humiliation in court had been painful, but it had sparked a determination that led to uncovering hidden misconduct. She reviewed her notes one final time, ensuring that everything was organized, accurate, and clear. Maya knew that the upcoming weeks could be challenging, but she was ready. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and she had emerged stronger and more focused. By the end of Part 4, the story had reached a turning point. Maya's careful observations, combined with witness statements and the FBI's investigation, had revealed clear evidence of Judge Brenton's misconduct. The courtroom, once a place of intimidation, was now a scene of scrutiny and potential accountability. Maya had transformed her humiliation into courage, and her dedication to truth had brought justice within reach. Maya Thompson woke early with a sense of resolve. After weeks of careful observation, evidence gathering, and collaboration with the FBI, the moment she had been preparing for was approaching. The investigation into Judge Brenton's conduct had reached a critical stage, and she knew that the truth was ready to be revealed. Today, she would see the culmination of her persistence and courage. She arrived at the courthouse carrying her notes and documents. The hallways felt different now. The tension that had weighed heavily on her had shifted. People whispered quietly, some casting curious glances toward the courtroom. Maya felt a sense of calm focus. She had prepared thoroughly, and she knew that her work, combined with the FBI's investigation, had created a strong case. Inside the courtroom, Judge Brenton appeared more restrained than ever. He maintained his usual stern expression, but his eyes betrayed unease. Maya noticed subtle signs of stress, a slight shake in his hands as he adjusted papers, his careful glances at the gallery, and the tension in the court staff. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, but Maya remained composed. She focused on presenting her points clearly and professionally. During the session, Agent Rivera arrived in the courtroom to observe. Maya felt reassured by his presence. He had been guiding the investigation and ensuring that all evidence was secure and properly documented. Maya knew that the combination of her testimony and the FBI's findings would leave little room for doubt. She began presenting a summary of key observations, carefully connecting facts, witness statements, and documents to show patterns of misconduct. As Maya spoke, she saw the audience lean forward. People listened intently to the evidence being presented. Clara Martin and Thomas Green were seated quietly, their expressions reflecting both concern and hope. Maya felt a surge of responsibility. This was not only about exposing Judge Brenton, but also about sending a message that fairness and truth could not be ignored. Judge Brenton remained silent for much of her presentation, but Maya noticed his subtle reactions. He shifted in his chair, glanced at documents repeatedly, and occasionally avoided eye contact. These small gestures confirmed what she already suspected. The investigation was having an impact, and the evidence was undeniable. Maya continued calmly, emphasizing facts, timelines, and patterns without showing emotion. Her professionalism reinforced the credibility of her presentation. After the summary, Maya was asked questions by the court. She responded carefully, citing documents, interviews, and public records. Every answer was precise, leaving little room for misunderstanding. She maintained a clear and firm tone, demonstrating that her observations were based on fact, not assumption. The gallery listened silently, sensing the significance of her testimony. After her session ended, Maya stepped outside to speak with Agent Rivera. "The evidence is strong," he said. "Your documentation and observations have been critical. We are preparing to take the next steps to ensure accountability." Maya felt a sense of relief and accomplishment. Weeks of hard work, careful observation, and dedication had led to this moment. She had transformed personal humiliation into a pursuit of justice, and the results were visible. The FBI began formal proceedings to interview Judge Brenton and examine additional records. Maya was informed that these steps would require patience, but the path forward was clear. The investigation had uncovered financial documents, emails, and witness statements that together painted a compelling picture of misconduct. Maya realized that her meticulous attention to detail had been instrumental in exposing the truth. In court, Judge Brenton was asked to respond to specific allegations. His expressions and carefully chosen words revealed the pressure he was under. Maya observed quietly, taking notes but remaining professional. The courtroom was tense as everyone sensed the seriousness of the situation. The judge's actions were no longer a shield. The evidence was now guiding the proceedings. Meanwhile, Maya continued to support witnesses, ensuring they felt safe and confident in providing accurate information. Clara and Thomas gave additional statements, confirming the patterns Maya had observed. Each testimony reinforced the investigation and helped establish a clear connection between the judge's decisions and improper influences. Maya's calm and organized approach encouraged honesty and clarity. Outside the courtroom, news began to spread discreetly. Maya received messages of support from colleagues and community members who had followed the story closely. People expressed admiration for her courage and dedication. Maya felt humbled but also focused. She knew that the goal was not recognition, but ensuring that justice was served. As the investigation progressed, the FBI gathered all relevant evidence and prepared a detailed report for federal authorities. Maya reviewed the materials, ensuring that all her observations were accurately represented. She felt a sense of responsibility to maintain precision, knowing that the case would be scrutinized carefully by experts and officials. Her dedication reflected her belief in fairness and accountability. Finally, the day came when Judge Brenton's actions were formally addressed. The courtroom was filled with officials, legal representatives, and observers. Maya sat calmly, her notes prepared, but she also felt a quiet satisfaction. The investigation had revealed the truth, and the evidence was undeniable. The judge's previous behavior, once intimidating, was now under scrutiny by multiple authorities. Agent Rivera presented the FBI's findings in a clear and organized manner. The evidence showed patterns of favoritism, undue influence, and improper handling of documents and cases. The report included financial records, witness statements, and email communications. Maya observed closely as the details were reviewed, feeling the impact of her efforts. Her careful observations, combined with the FBI's investigation, had created a comprehensive case. Judge Brenton was given the opportunity to respond formally. He remained silent for several moments, then provided carefully worded statements. However, the evidence was overwhelming, and it was clear that accountability would follow. Maya observed quietly, understanding that justice required patience and adherence to proper procedures. After the session, Maya was approached by Clara and Thomas. They expressed gratitude and relief. "We could not have done this without you," Clara said. Maya smiled gently. "I could not have done it without your honesty and courage," she replied. Thomas nodded. You turned a difficult situation into a chance for truth. That is something remarkable. In the days that followed, federal authorities took the necessary actions based on the investigation. Judge Brenton faced formal reviews and disciplinary proceedings. The court system ensured that proper measures were taken to address the misconduct and prevent similar situations in the future. Maya observed the process with a sense of fulfillment. Her persistence and courage had brought transparency and accountability to a place where fairness had been compromised. Maya's life gradually returned to a sense of normalcy, but she carried the experience with her. She continued her work as a lawyer, helping people in her community, but now with the added knowledge that courage, attention to detail, and determination could make a difference even against powerful opposition. She felt proud of the path she had taken, transforming personal humiliation into a mission for justice. One evening, Maya reflected on the journey. The trial had begun as a painful experience, leaving her humiliated and unsure. But her persistence, careful observation, and collaboration with the FBI had uncovered hidden misconduct, leading to accountability and transparency. Maya realized that courage was not only about facing fear but also about taking careful, thoughtful action to create meaningful change. She looked at her notes, now organized and complete, and felt a sense of closure. The case had been resolved through truth, evidence, and persistence. Maya had demonstrated that integrity and determination could prevail even in challenging situations. She felt gratitude for those who had supported her, trust in the system that allowed justice to be pursued, and confidence in her own abilities to face difficult circumstances. In the end, Maya Thompson had turned her experience into a story of courage, intelligence, and dedication. She had faced humiliation, observed hidden wrongdoing, gathered evidence, and worked with authorities to ensure accountability. Her actions reminded everyone involved that truth and fairness could not be silenced, even in the face of power and intimidation. Maya closed her briefcase, feeling the weight of responsibility lift. She had completed a journey from being humiliated in court to helping uncover misconduct and promote justice. Her persistence, careful attention to detail, and unwavering commitment to truth had made a lasting impact. Maya understood that challenges would continue to arise, but she now had the confidence and experience to confront them with integrity, courage, and determination. The courtroom that had once been a place of humiliation had become a stage for accountability and justice. Maya had proven that careful observation, patience, and courage could reveal the truth and ensure fairness. She left the courthouse with a sense of accomplishment and hope, ready to continue her work as a lawyer and advocate for justice, inspired by the knowledge that one person's determination could create meaningful change.